Pedophiles are all over the news. You have Epstein, allegedly, Michael Jackson, allegedly, Ava Chris Tyson, allegedly, and R. Kelly, allegedly. The list can go on and on and on for pedophiles throughout the last 100 years in media. They're always in the news because most of us are in agreement that adults, usually grown men, abusing young children is wrong. Not just wrong, but a disgusting act. But what is a pedophile? Because if you go into Google right now and look up what a pedophile is, it will not be an adult that abuses children, but instead will have the definition of a person who is attracted to children. You probably clicked on the title of this video thinking that this is a crazy question to ask. And it does seem at first sight. But with our current understanding of sexual orientation and sexuality, should pedophiles be demonized? Is pedophilia like murder, where you take an active choice to end someone's life? Or is it more like homosexuality, which the science clearly states is not up to the individual to decide? Hey listeners, my name is Dylan, and today I'm asking a question I fear is going to get me put on a list. I'm going to look at the data, the research, and the statistics, and try to keep my biases out as much as possible in order to answer the question of today's video. First, you're going to see arguments for pedophilia being a choice. Then you'll see arguments for pedophilia being a sexuality. And lastly, how all of this should affect how we treat pedophiles in the world, especially known pedophiles. But before we get into that, we gotta talk about why pedophilia might be a choice. The arguments go like this. You accept that pedophilia does not automatically mean that you abuse children, but instead focuses on the decision to act upon your pedophilic desires. For example, any person on this planet who you're attracted to is not up to your choice, but whether or not you act upon who you're attracted to is up to choice for everyone. Because while there's an argument to be made about whether to call something a choice when you have strong desires to make a specific choice, society and the legal system has basically agreed, even if you have the entire world's worth of desires pushing you towards a specific decision, the ultimate responsibility is on the individual and should be treated as such. There's a few ways that this is actually played out in the world. Many pedophiles that were caught by the authorities had long plans to hide the evidence of when they intended to abuse children, which shows an understanding that at minimum they know what they're doing is not legal and frowned upon by the society. But maybe that's twisting the definition of a choice a little too much. Instead, do we just say that your brain was wired the way it was from the beginning? Well, this is where things get complicated. The big question here is whether or not a pedophile is a sexual orientation. And this is a really uncomfortable question. And while I did my best to dive into the research to come to the accurate answer, this is a great time for me to let you guys know that if you found any problems with this video, leave a comment down below and I'll make any corrections in the pinned comment. While you're down there, you might as well hit the subscribe button. But the research is pretty clear in that pedophilia is a sexual orientation. Just like heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, there's also pedosexual. A large amount of pedophiles report that they were aware of their attraction even before they fully understood sexuality. And there's no evidence that anyone can actually train themselves out of this attraction. Certain things can be done to control the behavior, but not change the underlying attraction. And given how people can be addicted to sex, something that you want, but that you understand that you just can't have. And it's a decision that you have to make every day. I'm not going to act out my desires on kids. It's a decision that has to be made constantly. With these pretty black and white two pieces, I think we can piece together what pedophilia is. What's right and what's wrong. It is a fact that being a pedosexual is a sexual orientation, and that being attracted to kids is not one's own choice in the vast majority of cases. However, taking steps towards and actually acting upon those desires are a choice. I'll lay out some of my biases right here. I am not a far left social warrior, which many conservatives on the internet think are gonna bring about the acceptance of pedophilia. It is just the truth. is a truth that society is not good at dealing with. If a pedophile tells a close friend about the feelings that they are having, that friend may walk away and not talk to them again, or tell the authorities about these attractions they're having and probably spread the message around the local community, which could be life-threatening. And sure, you may say that the friend could act well and get that person some help, but think about it in your own case. How would you really act if your best friend, or say your dad, came up to you and told you that they had a strong attraction to prepubescent children, usually under the age of 13? Most people would freeze up and not have any idea what to do in this situation. But the problem is that if these people don't have a space to go to, how can they go about coping with these desires and preventing future harm? So that leads us to the juicier question that you guys didn't click on this video for, but the question that will make you stay. The question is, how should we deal with pedophiles in society? And more controversially, how should we deal with known pedophiles that haven't acted? From my research, it seems like the limited therapies available to pedophiles try to do a few things. First, they just upfront make the person understand that curing is not possible, and they try to use self-awareness techniques to infuse in the person's mind that what they are feeling towards the child does not feel back to them. And another one is pairing sexual feelings with a bad odor or smell. So when the feelings start popping up, the bad odor or smell starts popping up, almost acting as a sort of turnoff. One of these centers, called the Dophili Project, was started in 2005 with the slogan, "You are not guilty because of your sexual desires, but you are responsible for your sexual behavior. There is help. Don't become an offender." And research has shown that projects like these have an effect. A small effect, but still an effect. One of the reasons that it's a small effect is that by 2017, there were only 2,500 applicants and an even smaller 500 that were accepted into the Dophili Project. Now, the really uncomfortable question that comes out of this is that when there is a known pedophile, should they be allowed to work in majority kid areas like camps, schools, daycare? If the desires they have are not their own choice and they have no history of acting on those desires, is that okay? And while I usually try to leave this channel for just asking questions and not taking any moral stances, there's really only one correct answer here, which is yes. And it's uncomfortable for me to think about too, and let me show you why the answer is yes. The reason here is that restricting someone based on something they have a tendency to do but have never actually done is just wrong. We let people with higher violent tendencies work with other people, even though they may be at a higher risk of doing something violent around people. Now, the question about how open to the public these desires should be, like should parents be able to know if a teacher or a student aide has pedophilic desires, is up for you guys to think about. But it is absolutely wrong to stop pedophiles from being in majority kid areas. So while it's absolutely awful when an adult abuses a child, being a pedophile does not mean that someone has abused a child. Pedophilia, a pedosexual, is a sexual orientation that society has agreed is wrong and not permissible. It's a trait that person did not pick. So society should be more open to known pedophiles that haven't acted, and only leave the judgments and punishments onto those who have acted or have evidence against them showing the plan of acting. If you enjoy listening to me defend an indefensible group of people, you'll also love my video where I defend people who believe that women are worse leaders than men. Full stop. Kind of. You can check that video out right here. You'll be surprised by what the research has to say. Now, don't forget to be calm when someone tells you that they're attracted to children. Remember it's a sexual orientation, and think controversy. I'll catch you over in this video right here.